Hello, empowered woman. Welcome to this episode of the Empowered Woman Podcast. I am so excited about this one. I got to interview the amazing STUTZ, who is a conversation expert. And what does that mean, you may ask? He helps online entrepreneurs generate profitable messenger conversations at will and convert them into clients effortlessly and naturally with what he calls his conversation control method. It's incredible, and I can't wait for you to learn more. He also shared about his personal and entrepreneurial journey, and of course, his upcoming Power Hour challenge that I get to be a part of as one of the head coaches. So much goodness. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Empowered Woman Podcast, the #1 show on personal growth, visibility, and profit for women entrepreneurs. If you're wanting to start believing in yourself, giving yourself permission to succeed, and let your voice be heard to make an impact in the world as an entrepreneur, this is the place for you. I am so glad that you're here. My name is Marcia Spurk, and I'm your host, triplet mom, woman empowerment coach, and all things motivation extraordinaire. Welcome again, and let's dive into today's episode. Hi, Miles. Thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yay, I am so excited. So I always like to start with a little intro of how I met my guest. So we've known each other for a few years, which is so crazy to think about this virtual world. We met in a coaching program that we took together, and come to find out it was your very first one. Once you started your entrepreneurial journey, which I'm so excited to hear a little bit more of the details, because I know a little bit, but I want to know the details. And it was actually my first super high ticket program as well. So I was kind of scared, what do I do? And it was a lot of information, but I'm so glad we share that too.
Sure.
But I'm so glad that we've stayed connected, and just to see your growth and all the amazing things that you've done. And we've reconnected recently. We're going to talk more about it on the show too, but I just wanted to start by welcoming you. And I want you to tell us who you are and what you do. Just brief intro, and we'll go more in depth.
I love it. I love sharing stories, and I'm absolutely not brief, so please just stop me when I'm going totally overboard and I share it too much. But I think the question was about, when I joined that program, I think it was about 2.5 years or so ago now. And at this point, I was really, to be fully honest with all of you, I started a marketing business and I had no idea what marketing is. So I think my internal drive to do something like that was that I went through quite some hardship after losing my mother, and I lost myself in quite some drug abuse, and I was quite lost in my internship back then. And, everything was quite crazy. I had lots of arguments with my dad, with my sister, and it felt like everything was breaking apart. And one big piece of that was just not enjoying my internship that was in, and not feeling understood, even though it wasn't the company of my dad. So after that internship, I went to the army and, kind of found my way, or found, kind of myself again. And about at the end of that, I inherited about $250,000 of the loss, or losing my mother. And that opened the doors to, back then around that time, to, feeling seen and heard again. For me, seeking for confirmation, seeking for approval was the one thing that drove most of the actions I've been taking in my life. And, inheriting all of that money is, on the surface, it's like an opportunity to finally be seen and heard, because you can do that crazy stuff that seems like that gives you so much confirmation. Long story short, I've spent all of that money within about a year on partying and clothes and all of that stuff that should get confirmation. Obviously, I didn't feel happy afterwards, which brought me to Paris. I was living in Paris for about a year to learn French. To this day, I don't speak a word French. But that was, for the first time, I felt that I think my need for approval and confirmation comes from a deep belief of not being worth it. Based on what I've experienced by losing my mother, and, my parents being divorced in my early age, and obviously as a kid feeling like it was my fault, I was the problem kid. So that I started a job as a nightlife promoter in Paris. And now most of you will maybe think like, oh, another job where he gets drunk and is partying all the time. And I absolutely did. But it was, for the first time, I felt very accomplished, because by using what we are now teaching, Messenger and social media and those things, I did a very, very good job. And it was something that I enjoyed doing. I was like, okay, fuck, there's actually something for me out there that I can do well. And after 6 or 8 months or so of doing that, I was still like, well, I'm drinking 5 times a week and I'm drunk all the time and I have total blackouts. This is not the path I want to go. It still doesn't feel good. So on one hand, I had the burning potential, like I can do more, but I don't find my sweet spot. And about going home without any money, I was like, okay, I have to start something. I don't want to go back into a 9-to-5. And basically, I asked a friend of mine that is quite known in the agency space of like, and I've seen his growth over 4 years. I was like, dude, I want to have more of that too. Like, I want that. Can you show me, how to step into that world? Because the only thing I've had back then was Instagram. I kind of like positioned myself as an Instagram consultant. All the clients I've served, they left me. They wanted a refund. So I did a horrible job. But it was at least my first somewhat of experience in that space. And that failed. So it didn't fail. I don't want to call it a failure, but the business itself, I stopped doing it because at that day, when, I don't know if it's the universe or whatever you want to call it, that coach we both met reached out to me, or I think he got connected to me as a referral. And I was like, all of that sounds incredibly good, because he got recommended from a bunch of people, also from workshops I've been to. And that was my first enrollment into an actual program that was going on for 12 weeks. I think we met, and at that point, I think, and we may be going to talk a bit more about that, maybe not, but that drive for to be driven and to do work for the sake of getting confirmation or validation can be a very, very strong force as long as you buy into it. And I think that was a reason why I had the opportunity to grow very fast, because everything that was shared to me, I was like a sponge, taking up all the information and, working 13, 14, 15-hour days, because I really did believe that when I get somewhere, I will get the confirmation, I will feel better.
Right.
In the first year or two, that feels good. It forces you. But at one point, when you look success in the eyes, well, the confirmation was not there. And it's still, like that external confirmation will never give you internal confirmation.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that backstory, because I don't know if you shared that in the program. Of course, it's been a couple of years, about your mom and about everything that had gone through. And I didn't know about that. And even when you talk about wanting to find that validation and wanting to find that approval, that is so amazing that you're sharing this. And I always love hearing this kind of stuff from a guy, because I talk about this stuff so much here on the show, and with finding these things about myself. And for me, the turning point was having kids, and then like, okay, where do I find my validation and confirmation from? And one of the things that I know now, I didn't know then, that helped me with that was starting a business, and then understanding that was a way of me finding control over something, because it felt like I lost control over everything after having, triplets at that. And then realizing that was not what was going to give me confirmation, that the success and the visibility, they were great, but they were not, at the end of the day, what is going to fulfill me. And that was one of the reasons why we were even in the messenger chat, which we're going to share a little bit more. We were talking about assessments, and I was curious to find out what your Enneagram type is. And I don't know if you've taken the test. Have you? No? Okay. I'm so curious to know what type you are now.
I'll do it. Like I'm all in for all of those 16 personality tests and so on, but I always forget it. And honestly, they change all the time too. Like my results, it's probably because I'm not being honest when filling them out. I don't know. They change
it's
all
tricky.
the time.
Yeah. No, but I definitely resonate with that. And I've seen some of your posts, like we've been connected, and you talking about, for so long in my life, I was just, blowing money, wanting to have all the brand stuff and drinking and partying and thinking that was going to fulfill me until one day I was like, no, this is not it. And then moving on to something else. And I remember when you first joined that program, you had just such a fire and you were like a sponge. I remember that because you were so ecstatic. Because I think once you began, I was about finished. So it was like a fresh face. And that's why you were so, I remember you're so remarkable to me. And we had a call as well. And I remember you were doing the Instagram side of things. And one thing before we go into what you're actually doing now, because that's the nitty gritty and what I want to get into. I just wanted you to tell us where you're from exactly, because you talked about Paris and you're originally from Switzerland.
So born and raised in Switzerland, in Zurich. Yeah, born and raised.
Okay, awesome. So you have all the European people. I just love how it's so varied, like all your team in the group, because I'm so used to the US and the Canada stuff. And that's another thing that I find so interesting about your business and you, because it's a fresh perspective and it's interesting to see what people are doing around the world when it comes to digital marketing and when it comes to business. So I love that. So tell us how you transitioned from Instagram into what you're doing now and how amazing it is.
So I think that need for validation and confirmation goes much deeper than we oftentimes think. It makes us, like, it obviously drives comparison very much. So you'll look at others all the time because you obviously don't really buy into your own skills and into your own, into your own gift. Mm-hmm. So you start looking around, well, what are the other successful people? Like, what are they doing? And I remember at that point, having a conversation with our coach. It's like, well, I understood Instagram and I had quite some followers. And I think he helped me bridge the understanding of, like, you know what, Instagram followers are great, but what is it that most people want out of Instagram followers? Well, not most. I think there are the influencers that just want to have the followers, but
right.
The people I want to do search are like, well, followers are nice, but let's think it through. We need clients. Mm-hmm. And followers themselves, they can turn into clients, but there is somewhat of an individual conversation that has to happen. So that steered me into the direction of classic lead generation. I remember to this day, my first I help statement that, every coach is having on their Facebook profile was, I help you get leads without paying a dime for ads. Mm. That was my first offer statement. And that led me to have first success with clients. And because I had no idea of marketing, in all honesty, it was a total ripoff of the program I've been doing with the coach I enrolled with. So in the beginning, I literally was just reteaching what he taught me. And in the process of doing that, I was lucky that one of my first clients that I've got is, to this day, one of the most successful clients I've ever served. And this gives a sense of, confirmation, validation, makes you, listen a bit more finally to yourself. And then in the process of serving clients one-to-one, I more and more were able to generate results for my clients. And I added my own twists to the program to a day where it was completely different to what I've been learning back then. I was also a guy that was probably in every program that you could think of. So I bought every high ticket program that has somewhat of a name and rank in the industry. And to this day, I do not regret this decision. I gathered lots of great information. I was at the table with the big players, but it created something very toxic, which is codependency. For someone who lacks self-worth, something like that evolves into I can't solve problems myself. I always need to hire someone else. To get your business up and running, to hit your 10, 15K a month, great, because there is a proven process, somewhat of a proven process, and you can repeat the same things to hit those goals and sign clients. But when you're at one point, when you want to grow and you want to scale and you want to have a business that truly impacts people, well, you got to bring in your individuality. You got to be individual. You got to bring in your own gifts that makes it truly different from whatever else is out there. And, if I future pace of it brings us to the point where we reinvent the industry as we do together and the entire team. But I have overseen in the process of building my business, my true skill, which I built luckily since I did work for myself as a promoter, which was Messenger.
Yeah.
I'm a very outgoing. I don't like, yes, extrovert, introvert. People tell me I'm an extrovert, but I am such some kind introverted person of having to, especially back in the days, I have to work a lot on being truthful, on sharing who I truly am, and reducing that space in between who I am in the public and who I truly am in myself. So it's not that, people always tell me, oh, you can communicate so well, you're loud and you can connect with people, but truly in the inside, I am shy. It's like, fuck, I don't want people to see the true me. And that's the work, that's the other thing that I'm doing, but the work on myself. But I'm able to, I think, very sensitive is probably the right word. I know where people are in the conversation, how they feel simply over Messenger. I can connect and understand people very well because I'm able to be very vulnerable and authentic, or try to be authentic myself as good as I can. And Messenger then became an elementary tool of what I use to generate results for my clients and for themselves, and where truly all the leads came from. I have overseen that skill for most of the time because people in the industry said, I don't want to do Messenger. I hate Messenger. To this day, people say that.
Yeah.
And this made me like, you know what? I'd rather teach people how to get clients over content and so on, so that I am more like everyone else out there. Then really only about, I'd say a year ago, I made the decision to, you know what I'm very good at, what I'm probably the best at, is Messenger. Let's just destruct that thing that I have built in my mind, that I have to be a certain way, that marketing has to be a certain way, and let's double down on Messenger. And I think Conversation Control was born, the Power Hour Challenge was born, and we're shining more and more light to how to do Messenger in a very natural, in a very authentic, and in a very effective way. And truly now feeling like that what we are doing is actually changing the way organic marketing is being done.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You touched on so many amazing things. I took notes here. Very first thing is, what is the point of having 1 billion followers if you're not converting that into clients? And I think this needs to be talked. Yeah, right. Exactly. But this needs to be talked about more, because people are still, after so many years of social media, like ridiculous. After so many years of social media, people are still attached to how many likes they get on a picture. They depend on that. And then they create that image of, this is what I need to have in order to have that client, instead of understanding that it's the relationships. And I say that from experience because I was one of those people. And I wish I would have, I wish I would have gotten to that point sooner to understand it's not that's going to grow my business. It's really me being me. But the problem is I didn't really know how to be me, just like what you're saying, closing that gap of who I am inside and who I'm portraying to be. And that's why I'm so interested to know what type comes out of the Enneagram when you take the test, because I'm kind of assuming we are the same ones, because this whole, need for validation, we all have it, but yeah, we'll talk more about that soon. So I love this idea. And I think more people, because I still get clients that ask me, how do I get more followers? And I'm like, no, you don't understand. That's not what you need. You need to have great conversations with people that are ready to work with you and to invest in you. And then another thing that you said that I think I need to stress here is the codependency in mentors and programs. Because one thing that was kind of comforting for me, but at the same time helped me steer away from that, which is exactly what you were describing as codependency, is that most entrepreneurs that are serious about their business are doing all the programs. And once I started meeting these people and they're like, oh, I did Amy Porter Fields, oh, I did James Wedmore, oh, I did this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought I was the only one that was going from program to program, trying to find the magic potion, right, to growing my business. And it's not. We're all doing that. So if you are listening to this and you're thinking, I'm a failure, I'm awful because I'm looking into my followers numbers and I'm doing all the programs, don't feel bad. Everyone has done that. But now there is a better way. And this is what we're talking about here. And another thing that you said is that you were somewhat reteaching what you learned in a program and it felt, like you were just saying the same thing. But then eventually, by doing that, you found your niche and you found your expertise in the messenger. And I think that's important for us to stress, because this is the journey. It's you not reinventing the wheel, but just adding your twist to what somebody else has taught you. And that is what makes you unique, is your personality. But it takes time to find who that is and what that is, and to add to what you really want to do. But it's going to be somewhat of a copy, if you will, quote unquote, of what a mentor taught you, because we don't just pick stuff up out of thin air. It's what we hear about. And I rambled on, but I don't know if you want to add anything to it, but I do want to talk about conversation control and the Power Hour Challenge. But let me know if you have anything to add to that.
I want to lead into that topic by taking a very strong stand. And I think for everyone listening to this who is wondering, how do I stand apart in an industry where everything is being thought 100 times, everyone's sharing the same thing, everyone's sharing the same value, how can I stand apart? And I'm taking a strong stand for a second, and for the ones that are willing to listen closely, you will learn for yourself how to stand apart. So when we think about conversation control, and especially what you have been talking about with the followers, with really everything that is quantity driven, let's look at what coaching has evolved into. When we look at the social media space at the moment, most of those very, very big companies that we start working with, if it is Traffic and Funnel, Sam Ovens, Amy Porterfield, all of those people that are big, the big objective that they have is reaching the masses and getting as many people as possible into their programs. Some people call it the scale or die mentality. How can I automate more of my processes so I can reach more people and make more sales? There is nothing bad about that. I am not forcing my truth onto you. What I'm trying to share is my philosophy. So if we look at that, in my opinion, coaching has lost its essence. Coaching is not about quantity. Coaching was always about quality. The intimate relationship we're building with a prospect that is required to actually create transformation. Now, if you look at this, and we have tested it over and over again, in my strong opinion, the intimacy approach will outrun the quantity approach all day, every day. Because here's the deal. When you start forgetting how important the numbers of your followers are, if you have a Facebook group with 10,000 members, 15,000 members, or an Instagram following with millions of people, or an email list with 10,000s of people on there, how much is it worth if you only know 50 or 60 of those people? Back in the days when there was only one with 10,000 emails or only one with 1 million of followers, yes, it builds authorities. But now there are 100 miles out there, 100 miles that are teaching the same similar processes that I teach to quickly open up a bracket. It's like when you join from program to program to program, at a certain point, you will understand that they teach all the same thing. What makes them different is what I'm trying to do here. It's the philosophy behind the program, which makes you stand apart. Closing that bracket here is that you're doing those programs, you're seeing that everyone's teaching the same thing. And the problem becomes that there are hundreds of miles out there. It becomes incredibly difficult for the prospect to decide, who should I go and work with? They're all the same. So what ends up happening is that as more and bigger your group gets, it makes no difference anymore, because growing an audience is easier than having an intimate relationship with your audience. Now, if we put that in context for a second, if there are 10 miles out there and everyone has 1 million followers and they all share the same processes and the same things, what makes me stop and be like, you know what? I want to work with that person. You can look in every industry that is saturated, if it's fashion, if it's cars, whatever it is. I go and purchase Burberry because I am in alignment with how Burberry makes business, what experience I get when I walk into the store, the way Burberry was built. People buy Chanel because of Coco Chanel, because of the story behind it. So if you are continuously focusing on the quantity, and you share the same thing, but you yourself have no essence. You have no philosophy. You don't have any ground in the market yourself. You're just a number for the prospect. So what has to happen, the shift all of us have to go through, one, to create better results for the clients, two, to get the industry again to a point where what matters is coaching and not the information. And the last thing I share about that is where we take a strong stand. I don't want you to pay me big ticket for information. Information, we are at a point and a date where information, pay for it. It's cool, but it should be free. It's like you're paying a coach not for sharing information with you. You're paying a coach to get coached. And coaching means mastery of a process, getting better at a process. So if you still feel you have to join programs because you lack information, you're at a wrong path. They're doing great marketing, but when you join that program, you will learn the same information from a different angle with a different philosophy, but all they do is helping you master the process. So what you have to start to understand, when comes the point when you're like, you know what? This process is that I buy into. I want to make this process work. And what I focus on, it's not new information. It's mastery of the process. And all of this requires intimacy, because mastery happens by an intimate relationship where someone is looking over your shoulders, where someone is taking you by hand, is understanding your situation. And this doesn't just start in the coaching program. It starts in the free marketing group or in the free group, in the following, where you build an intimate relationship. I'd rather have a Facebook group of 1,000 people, but I had conversations with all of them, and all of them want to be engaged and buy my stuff than having 15,000 people in an email list where I know 5 or 6.
Right. Totally. Oh my gosh. No, this is great. And I know we were segueing into the Power Hour Challenge, but I just want to say, when you said you're just a number for the prospects, I think that needs to be stressed as well, because we fail to realize that when you're looking at people as just numbers, guess what? They're doing the same with you too. So it goes both ways. And when you said, what makes somebody say, I want to work with you? And I've talked about this before, that when you're looking for just the numbers, what happens is you get a lot of people saying, I love your content, except they never buy. So how do you get to a point where people say, I follow different people in the same niche as you are, but I want to work with you? This is what we want. We don't want a billion people telling us we're amazing and not paying us at the same time. We want the quality, right? Quality over quantity. So we could stop right here and that's the message. But tell us more about what the Power Hour Challenge is and why I'm so excited about it, because I get to be one of the conversation coaches in the process as well. And I'll be sharing more about this on social media as well. But tell us how this came to be and what exactly it is. And we're inviting people to come on over and experience it in April.
All of you understand my philosophy now. My philosophy is that information should be for free and coaching is what you pay for. Now, the Power Hour Challenge itself gives you the entire process, which we call conversation control. Really quick about conversation control. Conversation control bridges the number of followers you're having to people buying your product, because what it does, it makes a number to a person that you are engaged with and that is interested in having a sales conversation with you. Now, if we look at marketing for a second, every marketing objective, every successful marketing objective is about getting into a qualified conversation with a qualified prospect. If this happens actively by having a phone chat, by having a messenger chat, or passively by reading a sales page or reading content, both of it is okay. But the purpose of all your marketing is to create a qualified conversation. Now, conversation control is about the active conversation, because an active conversation is just, in my opinion, a little bit easier than having to go out there, build a huge audience, build trust with that audience over content, and not really being able to say, well, if I publish that post, I get so many people reaching out to me, because there's so many variables that define that. It's very hard for a business that just started out to take control and build predictability and consistency. So what conversation control is, and for everyone listening to this, it's not easy. It's not like the fun process where people magically fall in your lab. It's work, but it is a process of actively building intimate relationships with the followers, with your Facebook group, with your list, and drive them in a very natural and authentic way to a qualified sales conversation. So this is conversation control. And the most beautiful thing about it is it's driven by metrics. Now, I am a spiritual person. I very much believe that there are things we should surrender to, that not everything is data. But when it comes to business, business should be rational. Business is driven by data. This is just money is data. Yep. So when you can build a business that is built around very specific data points, which conversation control is, you always know month in, month out what you have to do to drive results. And especially for someone who just starts out, this is a key element of having confidence in their business and getting it ready to scale. Now I'm losing myself. What is the Power Hour Challenge? Power Hour Challenge gives you the entire conversation control process. It is breaking apart the complex marketing systems into a very easy, implementable 1 hour to 2 hour a day daily marketing task called the Power Hour. That helps you, A, grow your audience with qualified members, B, get in intimate conversations with qualified members, C, having qualified sales conversations with the members. For everyone listening, those are the 3 metrics that conversation control is built around, the data that it's built around. So inside the 10 days of the Power Hour Challenge, our goal is for you to truly understand conversation control and use it. So this is our idea of giving you all the information for a very cheap price. So I'll share it openly. It's $97 for 10 days. You have a 100% money back guarantee if we don't triple your opportunity volume, your leads, within those 10 days. So inside those 10 days, you're going to learn conversation control. You will love it, hopefully. And after those 10 days, we'll have 2 options. The option A is that, Miles, conversation control is exactly what I want to do. This is a process I feel like I want to master. And if you feel like that this is the case, we'll offer you to get our help in mastering it. And that is then the core high ticket program that we are running. Or B, it's like, you know what, Miles? Conversation control is either shit, I hate it, or it is so good, I've learned so much. Please give me a couple more months. I want to try it out myself. And that's cool too. But to highlight the philosophy behind it, inside the Power Hour Challenge, you get all of our processes. You get the information. If you want to get coached more extensively, so don't misunderstand me, inside the Power Hour Challenge, you get tons of coaching. Marta is coaching you. We have conversion coaches coaching you in there. I'm going live every day doing workshops. It is, most people going through it are like, dude, that's A, the best challenge I've ever been through. B, it feels like a high ticket program. Yes. And one of the best I have ever taken. So you get tons of coaching because we want you to be able at the end of this Power Hour Challenge to have control over your marketing, knowing what you have to do to implement conversation control.
Yes. Well, and I need to speak from experience here because I was a part of the challenge. This is how it all started. I bit the bait in one of your posts when you talked about if I gave you a 1 hour marketing task for you to do every single day and to increase your relationships and to grow your business, would you want to try it? And I was like, yes, I want to try it. And I did. I think it was in December. And I was just so impressed with all of the content, but also the coaching, the accountability that you're talking about. And I do want to stress what you talked about, the metrics, because I think entrepreneurs run from that stuff because they look into more of the woo side of things. And they're like, I don't necessarily need to do these things because it's going to come to me. And it's kind of like living in denial, because it never really happens, or it happens. And it's what we've been talking about, the fingers crossed marketing, right? It's the fingers crossed business plan. Let's talk about it in a more expansive way here. Many business owners, and I say that from experience too, because I was at that point as well in many points of my journey, of just expecting things to happen and to come about and not really taking control, which I love that you use that word, because how are you going to be in charge of something if there isn't specific things for you to hold on to know this is what's going to happen this month, or this is what's going to happen this week. And then we just kind of live this very, we don't know, unpredictable reality. And then we cry and we think entrepreneurship is not for me. Well, you're not really taking it how a company, brick and mortar, would have to take it if you were. And I think that's a side of the digital business that is kind of tricky, especially for people who did not have prior knowledge of entrepreneurship. It's just very, I don't know, it's very abstract. So we don't know what to hold on to. And then we hear the people that preach those same things that we're talking about, the different courses, and the one that preach to the masses and they're looking into the numbers. We hear them talking about how relationships are important, but they are not teaching this. They are not telling you to sit on your chair and for 1 hour, literally just have conversations with people. They're not saying that. And that's what I loved so much about the Power Hour Challenge. It's because, for one, it's not something new. You're not bringing in this amazing new concept that nobody has talked about. But the difference is it's not new, but you're really encouraging us to just sit and do it and coach us in the process and help us if we start a conversation and we don't know what to say or where to go with it. The whole team, the whole group is right there, because this is what happens, is that we understand that this is what we need to do, is have those conversations. But as soon as it gets icky and uncomfortable, I don't want to do this anymore. And then you drop it for a couple weeks. And then with the challenge, this is the message that I got when I was in the challenge. And the reason why I was so interested in becoming involved, it's the accountability to do the things that you know you need to do, but you don't want to do it because they're uncomfortable. And I love always comparing things to like fitness, for example, because everybody knows that they need to watch what they're eating and that they need to be active and that they need to drink water and that they need to sleep. That's like common knowledge. If you go to a doctor, for most conditions, this is the first basic step. But why don't we do it? You know? So it's the same exact thing, but having the content, the philosophy, which I love how you use that word, and the accountability, it makes such a huge difference. And that's why I am an advocate for the Power Hour Challenge, and everyone needs to come check it out.
And you're doing great. Really quick, I want to link into something that you brought up, which is the conversation about, I want things to come to me. And this is work I've been doing very extensively over the last weeks and months. And I absolutely agree that the state you're in is very important, and what you radiate outside is what you get back. But here's the problem. If the business you're running is not driven by something you feel confident in, and here's the classic scenario. So many conversations that I'm having, it's like, well, look, Miles, I'm very busy every day. I mean, I'm doing the work and I'm looking busy to any outside. Everyone's like, hey, you're working like a lot. And what is happening? What is going on? It seems like you should be very successful. Mm-hmm. Then yes, on the outside, you pretend that everything is going very well, but somehow in the inside, you're like, this is somehow not working out. I'm about to run into burnout if this goes on. And you feel so busy. And at the end of the day, you feel disencouraged because you know deep inside you have been avoiding what you should have been doing, which is generating opportunity. So here's the deal. If you expect the universe that to give you something and to radiate out positive energy, how should you do that in a state of being exhausted, of not knowing if what you're doing is going to work out? That state is giving you back what you radiate outside. So if you have something that is built around, you know what? I have data. So I know what is going on in my business. It's not finger crossed. You will get yourself in a state that makes you feel very confident about what you're doing. And when you radiate confidence out there, guess what you will get from the people you're talking with on the phone? It's confidence in your processes.
Yes.
And that was the big change for me. When I was like, you know what, let's face the discomfort of having to talk to people and generate opportunities. And when I've done it, A, it's fun. B, it is consistent and predictable. C, it changes lives.
Yes.
Not just mine, but lots of other people's lives too. So
well, and one thing to say too is that if you suck at it, if it's the thing that you dread the most, how is that going to change if you don't do more of it and become better at it? It's basic. It's not rocket science. It's just because we tend to just do the little fun stuff that doesn't make us sales and doesn't make us money. So why even bother?
Exactly.
So amazing. Well, I will do the call to action for anyone that is interested in finding more about this, because our whole conversation, if this doesn't do it, I don't know what would do, because you've dropped some amazing bombs and so amazing truths there to just reach out. And I'll be talking more about on social media as well, so that I can talk to people. But tell us how to find you. Tell us about your group and all the amazing things you got going on.
So you have the opportunity, if you're a little bit shy at the moment, go check out my profile on Facebook. It's Miles, STUTZ, Miles STUTZ. You can find me there. You can get a little bit into my world, see who I am. And if then you're like, oh, I'm ready for the next step, I would recommend to join the group. It's called Conversation Control. I think messenger strategies to, I don't know exactly what comes after, but if you type in Conversation Control, you'll find it. And I think most of you, and I believe most of you, because Marta is doing a great job in communicating in a very authentic and natural way. If you want to know more about the Power Hour Challenge, maybe reach out to Marta rather than to me, because she will give you incredible information what the Power Hour Challenge is about. And you might even get the opportunity to work with her in her unit and get her support by implementing and getting the accountability inside the Power Hour Challenge. So wherever you're at in the journey right now, if shy or super confident, you're either going to find me on my feed in the group, or you immediately reach out to Marta and we'll see us in the Power Hour Challenge.
Amazing. Well, and I just forgot one thing before we wrap up. I usually have some rapid fire questions that I have my guests answer. And it's always nice to see what people come up with, because it's literally what comes to mind. And it could be just a sentence or a word, whatever comes to mind. And it's the 5 steps of the framework that I teach on personal development. So are you ready?
I am.
All right. So the first one is notice yourself. What comes to mind?
Emotional.
Okay. The next is listen to yourself.
I want to dance.
Ooh, nice. Forgive yourself.
Being so hard on myself, wearing an armor for so long that prevented me from getting rejected. So forgive yourself for wearing that for so long. And yeah.
That's powerful. Next is empower yourself.
Listen to the guidance of your soul.
And last but not least, transform yourself.
I think same answer I gave before. Surrender to the guidance of your soul, surrender to the creator showing you the right causes to engage with, and detach from the effect or the outcomes, and just fully surrender to the being.
Yes. Oh, I love that so much. And thank you so much for being vulnerable and talking about, wearing the armor. Again, I love hearing that kind of stuff from guys, because I know for many, it doesn't come as naturally. And I know that's one of the reasons you make such amazing connections, and you teach what you teach, because you've learned to strip yourself from all that stuff. So thank you so much, Miles. This was amazing. How awesome was that? I hope you were encouraged and empowered to start conversations and let your voice be heard. Share your message unapologetically, but with a strategy, right? With intention, so that you're not a spammy Sammy. And that's definitely something that you can learn with Miles and with the Power Hour Challenge. So check out more information in the show notes on how to join Miles' group. And also you can come directly to me and check out some of my posts and some of the information that I've been posting myself about the Power Hour Challenge. I would love to have you in my pod. I would love to coach you through the Power Hour under Miles' trainings and supervision. Until next time, bye.